Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you for signing on and giving us the support that is very well deserved for our guest today. So, before I start, let me introduce myself. I am the host of From Zero to Shero, the Hong Kong chair for the G100 Global Networking Circle of great leaders from around the world, women leaders who support the SDG goal of gender equality and solidarity. And I am also a social emotional intelligence coach, a Canfield trainer, success principles trainer, and an advocate of mental health. So what we have today, very excitingly, is one of the women that I really admire, who I really, really admire. And I got to know about her and her work involvement with her fund a few years ago. So let me introduce, with no further ado, our guest today, Judy Kan. So, Judy, would you please say hi to our audience?
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Shirley, for inviting me here.
My pleasure. So, do you remember how we met and when we
Uh,
met?
well, my memory is not very good, but I
You have,
just remember that, yeah, um, I think you reached out, and then we met at a restaurant in Mongkok, and and we
yeah.
chat, and we chat a lot. Yeah, and then you also raised that to do a charity concert. Yeah, so it was a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a few years ago when I first started knowing that there is more than just making money and pursuing my career. There's so
Yeah.
much more one can do in terms of giving back, right? And at the time, I was organizing this female empowerment concert, which I called a celebration of women concert. And I was looking for a very worthwhile organization in Hong Kong, which was serving women and particularly maybe marginalized women or minority women. And I found you. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Judy? Who were you when you were a kid? What were you like?
So when I was a kid, I actually very ordinary, very, how to say, um, a kind kid, and I actually very perform very well. I listen to what my mom say a lot. So um, yeah, so it's quite a big change as what I'm doing right now. But then I think when I grow up, I on the contrary, actually my mother she didn't go to any school, but she read a lot newspaper, and we read newspaper and TV programs every day. On I mean like the news, TV news every day. So it really um, like put a seed to me, starting to kind of like concerning about how the world is situating, or how is. And I grew up in a very grassroots family. I've got a very big family, and when I was small, I live in like public estate. I stayed in yeah, very grassroots level, and like we have 8 family members, and we stay in 200. um, public estate, so you can imagine how local I am.
Wow. So, I cannot imagine 8 people in your household.
Yeah,
Siblings, did
so
I?
I've got four elder sister and one younger brother, including my parents. So it's six
Wow.
persons.
And the living quarters was one of those public housing apartments or flats, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And how big are they usually for the size? Because in Hong Kong, what happens is, according to the size of one's household, one can apply for public housing. But Hong Kong is infamously tiny and congested and just insanely not even funny. Okay, the kind of living situation that we face in Hong Kong, for like Julie was saying, most lower middle class or lower class, right, working class people, the amount of space we have is ridiculous. Okay, sometimes we feel like we're being stuck in a van. To be honest, right? So in that kind of a situation, you felt like you were a very obedient child
Yes, at
because.
that time I was, because at that, like, because my mom and actually my father was a seaman. So
Ah,
it's actually my mom taking care of the whole family by herself. So that's why, like when she has six kids, she has to make sure that, she has to make sure that she can control us so that she can have enough time to make sure everything is on her progress. And of course, like right now, because of my work, and I realize that this kind of parenting is very psychiatry, but like I can also imagine and understand what makes her to be like that. Yeah, she has a lot of pressure, and she has a lot of, like she received a lot of stereotyping around her to make sure that she has to be a very good mother, while her kids has to be very obedient. Yeah.
yeah. So, what did you learn in that kind of from that kind of childhood, and also watching your mom?
Well, um, I would say that at that time, I don't really feel bad, because it looks like um, it looks like very normal stuff. And I know that if, like, if I'm not behave well enough, my mother would be angry. And um and but then, like, i i would I would say that when now I'm reflecting, um I also know that at that time I'm trying to be like finding my way out. So I know that if I want something, I have to do it. I mean, like, kind of like exchange, like if I want to do something that I feel good. So at the very beginning, I have to complete all the tasks that my mom thinks that is more appropriate. So I know, like I know the tricks. Um, but then, um, when I grow up at school, I think it also, especially during the secondary school, I think it also helped me a lot, that my schoolmates, or like my classmates or my teachers, they they kind of like quite, how to say, to confirm that I can be um, I can be recognized as very, not good, not that kind of good student, but they recognize me as a person, um, and I feel like that, um, I, for example, like when I was in primary five, I started to think that I need to be a social work. I want to be a social worker, because
Wow.
I think that helping people is something really, really good and important. So when I was in secondary school, my, like, even my classmates, they really told me and recognized that, like they feel like they would like to ask me for support, they would like to share their journey with me. And
Mm.
yeah, I feel like that kind of recognition, although, like, but of course, during my primary school time, I actually also faced a lot of challenging um, period. For example, like, I remember a lot that one of the reasons, other than my mom, actually, my primary school teacher also um, tell me, like I have to be very obedient, quiet as a quiet student, because um, one day when I was very, very young, like primary, I think 3 or 2, something like this.
2 or
So
3 years old. Yeah.
at primary school time, so that is around, I think,
Like
8 years
9.
old, 9 years old, yeah.
Yeah,
So at
9
that
or 10.
time, yeah. So actually, I can't really see what the teacher was writing.
I
So
see.
I asked my classmate, ask her, hey, what did the teacher was writing? And then she raised her hands and tell the teacher, say it like this, is to say that Judy thinks that um, her wordings is ugly, so I can't read it. But like at that time,
Oh,
it was only I can't really. It's not about her shaping of writing. It's about
her
I
handwriting,
can't
yes.
I can't really read it, or because at that time I don't know, I got short sighting. At that time I didn't wear eyeglasses. So my teacher at that time was very angry. She asked me to
Mm.
stand up and to write something on the blackboard and with her together, and then ask my classmate to ask them to say, hey, let's ask them
There.
to tell the whole classes whether her writing is prettier or my writing is prettier.
Oh my God.
And so now, like starting from that time, I know that I should be not saying anything. I should not ask any
Wow.
questions.
Wow.
So like I think this is very common thing in Hong Kong education. Yeah. It's only really when I grow up, like in secondary school or like university, or even like when I start working, especially in Harfan, where I'm working, it's more encouraging environment. That's yeah, they will always encourage me to speak up. Yeah. So when I was young, I the whole environment is asking me to be quiet,
Yes.
so
To be
obedient.
quiet, to be
Yeah.
placid, to
Yes.
conform and not show yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Not demand anything, just comply or get lost or be humiliated. That's really what it went into, probably your core belief back then. But I probably thought, I think you were probably quite thankful looking back that you had this experience, weren't you?
Yes, yes, of course. Like, and I can be, like also sometimes I can be like, like right now I'm also, like working in a feminist organization. We always seeing things in not just by personal level, but like I would also ask myself how why my mother would do parenting like this is not because of her problem, it's because of the whole society is asking her to be how to be a good mother and what good mother means, and all those stereotyping, and even for my teacher as well. So like I'm kind of like trying to seeing or like to analyze that, um, why she behaved like this is is how the whole society see things in that way, so makes her to be having all those stereotyping, all those pressure, and make her like and yes, like what you've just mentioned, if I don't have all those experience, I can't really feel like having all those reflecting
Yeah.
and building like the person that I'm today. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes all our hardships are not really hardships after the fact. It's a test or also some kind of a lead, right, into one's journey, right? Having the smooth waters, sometimes you need some waves to toss you kind of out of your balance. So when you were in college, you chose to study social work. Is that how it worked?
Yes. So when I was in college, I chose to be to study social work. Yeah. So and then to be like I work as kind of like social work and community organizers for a while before I joined in her fund. Yeah.
So how many years were you were working for the government as a social worker, right?
No, no,
Oh, okay. For a
no. So
private.
it was yeah. So it was in an local NGO.
Ah,
So
okay.
it's a local nonprofit organizations. Yeah. So it's not
Mm,
government's funding. It's all
I see.
about yeah. So it was also a project that funded by someone else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what was that? So you worked for one NGO before you went to her fund. Did I get that right?
Well, it's more than that.
Well, were
Yeah.
they
So
very similar in terms of all having maybe women issues, in the forefront of their, serving women, or you actually worked for different NGOs serving different segments of the population?
yeah. So actually, before um, I joined Harvard, well, actually, I work after I graduate, I actually worked for a very short while in elderly center.
Hmm.
Um, and then I go back. I'm like I turn into a very totally different field of areas. I work as a because at that time it was very funny that at that time like when I go into study social work at that time, the government thinks that they need a lot of social workers. So I've got like 300 if I remember correctly. So I've got like 300 classmates at that time. But after we graduate, is almost at the second year is where the economic crisis was having. So it was
When was
super
that?
difficult
Was
to,
what time was that? Around which year?
I think around 2003.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I could not really, it's not easy to find a job in social work sector at that time. So I turned into working in the private sector. But at the same time, I work voluntarily in Oxfam, Hong Kong. And at that time, I was doing a project with a group of volunteers together on concerning poverty situation in Hong Kong. And one of the big issue topics that we were investigating and doing some community work is on women in poverty.
Mm.
Yeah. So at that time, I learned a lot through that process. Um, and afterwards, I re entering the social sector. Um, and I worked in a local NGO that at the very beginning it was because the economic situation was not good, right? So at that time there were lots of program on supporting youth employment. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So so it was also an interesting journey because when I was small, I was also thinking always, when I was doing social work, I hope to support youth. Like when you were youth, you usually think like that. Um,
Right.
so at that time, I also, like I also see a lot of different um, young ladies or like the different youth that they have different situation that really um, makes them difficult in employment. So after a while, one of my um, former supervisor inviting me to join. I mean, like in the same organization, she invites me to join another project uh, about community economy to work on community
Mm,
economy. Yeah.
okay.
So So is how to use, um, like we were not seeing um, the people. I mean, like not seeing people in the community with problem perspective, but we are seeing them as resourceful persons. Although
Ah,
they are all in poverty situation, but like every person have their um, resources that can use. And at that time I also, because my former supervisor, she other than this project, she was working in other women's groups as well. So that's why I start to kind of like learning about the gender issues. And at that time, because although it was a community work, it's actually more than 80, I think more than 90% of our beneficiaries or participants, they are all women in the community. So I listened a lot of their stories, um, and understand about their situation and understand about how they see things like
yeah.
this. Um, yeah, and they taught me a lot of stuff at that time. Yeah, and afterwards I quit because I went to New Zealand for working holiday.
Nice. Now, maybe spend 1 minute talking, telling our audience what that is, because that's a unique Hong Kong project, working
Um,
holiday.
Working holiday, yeah. So working holiday is, how to say, it's actually just a, getting a visa called working holiday visa. So we can, I mean, like the Hong Kong governments with, and some other countries governments, so including New Zealand, Australia, I think UK, Germany, some other areas, to do some exchange. So we can go to, so at that time I picked New Zealand to go. And then when I've got the visa, I can either, I can also working and travel over there. So kind of like I can help to do some seasonal job, but there is also restriction. So at that time, every each job I can do maximum 3 months, and then I
Okay.
have to change some other jobs. So it's not for replacing their working labor force, but kind
Yeah.
of like doing some seasonal jobs, and I can earn some money to keep going on my travel. Yeah.
Right.
So at that time I also try to, through that journey, is also like learning some other cultures, but also I also try to see, because like I just mentioned that I work in a project on community economy. So I know that in New Zealand they also have these kind of like small communities that having their own community economy. So I also, like kind of like trying to learn a lot, um, all those areas, and also trying to see different things in the nature and trying to understand how nature is, connecting with our lives. Yeah.
Yes, nature is mother nature. I wondered, we probably won't have a lot of time to really dive into your New Zealand experience, but I'm pretty sure because I've been there and I know a little bit about the Maori culture, so to speak. And I know that in terms of eradicating domestic violence, right, and also getting gender equality and all that, they also have some struggles there too, as an understatement. Yeah, so we have a lot of work to do. So let's kind of take a little take a little turn here. So you got invited by her fund, right, to work with them as a director right from the beginning, or you worked your way up?
No, I mean, like her fund start in 2004, and I
Yeah.
joined in 2007 as program officer. So at the very beginning, I start from working, more focusing on our programs.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, her fund was very small. I mean, like right now it's small as well, but at that time it's even smaller. So, um, and at that time we kind of like trying, still need to finding ways to, how to do fundraising. So other than the programs, I also need to work a lot on supporting a lot on fundraising as well. I think in not I think, but in 2017, at that time when I start joining in her firm, um, one of our founder becomes our executive director. And then around 2017, she's tried to step down as executive director because she wants her firm to be a more sustainable organization. Um, um, and she doesn't want kind of like, like, because she is the founder and she was the executive director. So it's important to find the other person. I mean, like to allow the other
Yes.
person to be the executive director so that to make the organization more sustainable, it's not like owned by
Right.
her. Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
so that's why
it's
in
sorry I interrupted because we in this program we want to focus on how women like you, a leader like you, went from almost probably to zero. The zero doesn't mean that you are zero, right?
yeah.
Is that maybe there was a situation or an experience that you've never been exposed to, or you didn't have the necessary skill set, and how you went from there, maybe in this case, right, for her fund, how you went from that very beginning, probably not knowing exactly how to make things happen, and how you found your way and slowly turning it into the way it is today. So maybe we can talk a bit about the evolution of your position or the programs in her fund.
Well, I think it was so in two areas. So I can try to talk a bit about her fund first. So her fund is a women's fund, and we are the only women's fund in Hong Kong. And women's fund concept is very unique in Hong Kong and is something still very new. It's not something very new in US. It's very something very common. But in Hong Kong, it's so unique that people don't really understand. And even like because we what our role is trying to look for resources and then give grants to support the women-led organizations and groups to advance gender equality. And we also give them a capacity strengthening support so that they can kind of like knowing where their organization wants to go and build the leadership as well. So at the very beginning, our founders, most of them were working in the um, women's organizations. So that means they don't have much sense on fundraising. So that's why we kind of like learn a lot try and error how to do fundraising. And at the same time, because they were used to be a worker organizers in women's organizations, so they were not used to be grant maker. So we also need to consult a lot of different other countries' women's funds to learn about how to be a feminist gramica. So it's a feminist gramica means that we are not only focusing on um, receiving the application to monitor how they do, ask about all those numbers in indicators, but like um, how to supporting the community, seeing them as a human, understand that like making change takes time, is a long process, and not just focusing on the project but the whole organization. So we also took a lot of time on learning all those stuff and trying to kind of like building the partnership situation. And we are very humble that we will be letting our grantee partners know that it is a learning journey, and Harfund is a learning organization that we learn and grow together. So it really from step by step. And I think one of the thing that is also important is we try to learn how to. I mean, like right now, I still don't really make a very good story. I'm not a very good storyteller, but like at the very beginning, we try to learn how to tell a story time by time by time. Like make all those progress, make all those connections, um, finding, like gender champion altogether, like you, and trying to reach out to different people, ask about, different advices, um, and yeah, connecting with different people. And I think is really, and also, like, we are not focusing on everything, is focusing on the chairperson or like on the executive director, but like as a collective, like the whole organization, we support each other, and we learn and grow and achieve it together. So I think this is a very important process. And for myself, as said, like I start from being a program officer until in 2018, I became the executive director. And to be honest, at the very beginning, it was not me. And I
Ah,
say no to the position.
you said no. Okay. Why was that? Because of the undertaking being so big, or other reasons, maybe family, or anything else?
Well, I think to take up as an executive director role is something super pressure and
Very
a lot of responsibility. And I'm not good at numbers, but I know at this position you have to face all those numbers. Like you have to make sure that all those sustainability issue, yeah. And when I was program officer at Shirley, because our organization is small, I even don't really need to take care of my colleagues because it's all the executive director's work. So I just can, like collaborate with my colleagues together. But when I am now as an ED, I have to make sure that, like I have the skills to learn how to not just co-work with my partners, but also give enough supervision, or like giving enough support to them, bringing them how to grow, but at the same time to make sure that, like all those work delivered, and to make the organizations being sustainable. So is a lot of it's really a lot of pressure, and I don't have a bit at that time. I don't think that I have all those skills. Yeah, and but then it is true that we also finally recognize that hiring process is a very difficult challenging journey for small organizations. And because I have the history in the organization, and yeah, I mean, like we really didn't. I mean, like we really had a challenging period when we did the transition, um, and we recognized that I have the history in the organization. So finally, I decided to take up this role, and I also recognize that I have lots of support around me. Yeah. So when I mean, like before I decided to take up this role, actually people around me, they all asked me to take up the role, say that, like they encourage me and say that, like they believe that I can do that. Don't judge myself.
Self
Uh,
belief.
yes, believe in myself. Um, and they really gave me a lot of solid support after I decided to take up this role, including give me mentors, coach, pay for it.
Wow.
Um, Even some funders, they are willing to give us some funding to kind of like helping us to take through all those transition steps.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, supporting us to, like even they come to teach me how to do budgeting. Yeah. So and also I think very how to say, a good journey is that even at that time, I would be very open to my colleagues, um, learning how to be a transformative leaders, to give the power to my colleagues, but at the same time, I can be vulnerable as well. And like I mean, like like in the outside world, we always have to be um, as a leader. Like we always have to be positive, always have to be like, I know everything. I can't be vulnerable. But
Right.
like having my journey, I feel like I, if I recognize that I can be vulnerable, I feel a lot of support around me. And even like when I when I share this with our corporate friends, some of them even tell me that, hey Judy, this is something, like very normal stuff, and they can really give me a lot of support. And I feel that is something, um, yeah, very important, and it's not only focusing on me, but at the same time it's like the whole team, how we can grow together. Yeah.
So it's very much like Renee Brown, right? Imperfect or Dare to Lead, right? Daring greatly. And I
Yeah.
think you brought out a very invaluable point. And I feel like it's really probably a lot of women can relate to that when we are being put in a certain position, right? For women particularly, we put on that facade. We feel like we have to wear that facade that we know everything and that we
Yeah.
always have a solution, even when we don't. And we have to pretend that we're so strong. And so together, when maybe deep down we're just kind of falling apart, which is just
Yeah.
being the vulnerability you were talking about is not really a show of lack of ability
Yeah.
or a pessimism per se, but it's just really being in touch with the stress and the overwhelm and acknowledging that maybe you need time out, maybe
Yeah.
you need help. And so I really love the fact that you were talking about how you were open with your colleagues and that you were able to receive help, because one of the things I think that is important in our Shero journey of moving from an old model of existence or thinking into a new one is to acknowledge that there is much to learn, and sometimes I'm able to learn it quickly, sometimes I'm not. So that was really a great point that you brought out. So tell us a little bit about the programs that you treasure the most, or the particulars that you, because her fund actually helps a lot of quite a few different segments of the population, right? Tell us a little bit about that, maybe.
Yeah, so our focus is on supporting the grassroots and most marginalized um, women, girls, and trans community to advance gender equality. So we have more themes on violence against women, freedom from poverty, discrimination, and promote women's civil participation. And we support lots of different communities, including the women in poverty, um, women like the asylum seekers women, the ethnic
Mm.
minorities women, migrant domestic workers, transgender, lesbians, young mothers, girls, um, um, single mother. Um, we are more like really focusing on those who are in marginalized and even they do not have the voices. So I'm even taking example like migrant domestic workers is a very big group, right?
All
So
right.
I would say that, like we would be taking challenging, like not just supporting those Indonesian or Filipinos migrant domestic workers, but because they are in large numbers. But in the past, we also support um, migrant domestic workers from Nepal, from
Oh.
Thai.
Mhm.
Yeah, that they are very very small numbers in Hong Kong, but we believe that it's very, very important because, for example, for the Nepal migrant domestic workers, Nepalese, they don't, most of them, they don't speak Cantonese, they don't speak English. Um, and that makes them being more
Right.
unseen, even can't hurt. And even they faced domestic violence or they face violence during the working relationship. They don't know how to seek help and they can't, I mean, like people around them can't really know it because they don't speak the language that they used to speak. So that's why. And then because they have so few numbers of them, we always neglect it because, like the smaller groups is usually always invisible. So we all so giving them the resources, giving them back the power, and also empowering them. That's also telling them that, like we hope to support them by bringing them from invisible to visible. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. From invisible, from invisible to actually, I had a class about a year ago. Actually, one of those online classes that I named it from invisible to invincible.
Invincible.
Invincible. Yeah, I really believe that a lot of women need to have that kind of mindset, and also the solid skills that enable them to really embrace that. So it's not just a thought or a wish, but actionable things that they can implement in their lives. So going back a little bit to this idea, which skill do you think helps you on a daily basis to get in your flow or just stay in your zone?
You mean myself?
Yes, yes.
Um, well, because we are also promoting something called transformative feminist leadership. Um,
Mm,
and we believe that this model is a more sustainable way. So we
okay.
always remind ourselves that self care is something very important. It's not something selfish. It's something that we need, and it's not just by myself, and it's including the whole team. So it's collective care, and this care is also, so that's why like we also learn about. Uh, First thing is we have to make sure that taking care of other stuff other than work is also important. Taking care
Mm,
of myself is something important. Not always work focus. Understanding each other, our colleagues as a person is very important. And not just colleagues, but also our granted partners as well. As a person is very something important. Always remember where our mission is, um, not to burn out ourselves. Um, Doing a lot of self reflection is something crucial, especially where I'm at the executive director position, that I have to be taking care of the sustainability of the organization, the branding of the organization. And sometimes I would say that, like when you are in the higher position, you would be very difficult to face failure. Um,
yes.
but I think, like this kind of self reflection also always as a reminder that I am a person. Failure is something not really a failure, but it's a learning journey. Um, and actually, why being vulnerable is also crucial. And also, sharing the power with my teammate is also something important. Um, Making sure that it's not, like we always talking about a concept called you want to you want to run fast or you want to run far. So
Ah,
if I'm the only one who run fast, I don't run far. But then if I share the power and let my teammates to grow together, allowing them to achieve, um, we can grow far together. Yeah.
I love that so much, so much, particularly in Hong Kong. And anyone who has ever come to Hong Kong, you may remember or really remember how everything's like zoom, 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 zoom. We
Yes.
have no patience for anything.
Although I'm still like
Well,
that, like the escalator is moving, so I'm still running on the escalator.
right. And if you ever get a meal from McDonald's or a fast food shop, it's like before you can even put away your wallet, the meal is there sometimes.
Yeah.
And yeah, and when I was in Portugal in May, I actually made fun of that fact. because I was actually a lot of our audience are from the G100 networking circle, but some are not. Okay, or in the future when they watch this, they may not be in the G100 circle of women leaders or advocates, right? And I mentioned in Portugal, I mentioned you and her fun. I was praising the accomplishment of women in Asia, which means in Hong Kong because I represent Hong Kong. So I mentioned you, and I also mentioned my friend, whom you may recall or may not recall meeting in that beneficiary concert that I contributed to her friend, right? Polly Chen.
Yeah.
And I started my sharing talking a little bit about the characteristics of Hong Kong, and that is sometimes if you eat, if you're not careful, if you go to a fast food restaurant, if you're not done with your food and you just maybe take something out from your handbag or whatever, the servers will come over and take your dish away.
Yes. Yes.
You will lose your food.
Yes.
That's how impatient Hong Kong people, Hong Kongers are. So I love the fact that run far, not fast. That
Yeah.
is really golden. That's one of the things that I think is also a very important component of you being able to, or any women being able to really disrupt what doesn't work and then go on to a journey of right discovery or disruption. And that is you have to keep running, but think about what you're running for and run far with that goal. Like you were saying, keeping the mission in your forefront, in your focus. This is really great. Now, I want to mention something because as I was researching what her fund is up to these days,
Yeah.
I found the G dot TV
Yeah.
and I watched and I was glued to it because in a place like Hong Kong, when the discussions of gay marriage, right, and same-sex couples and their legal rights and all those discussions are so controversial still,
Yeah.
so touchy and so divisive. So can you tell us who came up with that idea of the G dot TV and how it's doing right now?
Well, um, the idea is coming up always from the community. So, as a group of LGBTQI community, that's came up the idea, and then because they, like that group of people, their their skills is in doing culturally development, and then also doing this kind of writing pieces um, by using the videos. So this is something that their skills is. So um, this is why they hope to come together and use these skills um, to contribute in the movement, and and the person who called Cami right now is the lead of this G.TV.
Kenny.
Um, Cami, Cami. So
Kenny.
Cami, yeah. So how they are now is we are still supporting them to finding yeah, again, is how to find a more sustainable model to keep
Ah,
going on this projects, as you mentioned, like this kind of like controversial topics is not easy to find support on resources. um, and so to keep going on the good work is very difficult. Yeah. And so that's why we are still giving them grants, hoping that they can build a better team, um, and to keep the work keep going on. But at the same time, they are also, so that's why I'm saying that, like our support is not just giving them the money to keep the program or project to keep going on, but we also see that the whole organization sustainability. So that's why in giving funding way, or like we also invite them to join some of our other um, capacity strengthening programs that to support like to support them how to grow their members, how to grow their volunteers, to maintain the G.TV keep going on, and I think that this is also their existence is very very important as they have the skills and they can share all those perspectives to a wider community, and hoping that and we believe that like we really can see the changes, especially in the younger generation, and so that's why like these and the younger generation, they always love to watch videos going on social media.
開台至今，我哋製作咗數以百計嘅影片，當中包括紀錄片、同志活動、足本紀錄、活動採訪、人物專訪、街頭訪問、微電影等等，讓公眾看見同志，讓同志社群發聲，亦都以鏡頭記錄咗同志運動一幕又一幕嘅歷史。So this is just a very quick call to action. I hope that. Did you see the screen, by the way, just now? Did you see the screen?
No.
No? Okay, let me do
No.
a better job. Let me try it again. Because I wanted to show it to our audience so that you can get more share, get more likes. So let's go to g.tv. And let me make sure that I'm bringing it on. Okay.
Yes, now I think so.
Here we go. My bad. Clumsy, clumsy, clumsy. So here we go again. Okay.
2008年，G.TV電視成立，係香港首個為性小眾社群服務嘅網上電視台。 It's not showing now.
我哋製作咗數以百計嘅片，當中包括紀錄片、同志活動、足本紀錄、活動採訪、人物專訪、街頭訪問、微電影等等，讓公眾看見同志，讓同志社群發聲，亦都以鏡頭記錄咗同志運動。 Okay, I think I know what happened because I tried to go full screen, and when it goes full screen, it just kind of poof. So a little bit of learning curve for me. Okay, sorry about that. But everyone, go on YouTube and go to g.tv and give them the support they deserve. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's just what it's just mentioned. Like they are also trying to bring the invisible to visible. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So now, besides the G.TV, what projects are you guys working on right now for this year?
So G.TV is one of our grantee partners that they're doing the great work. We're also supporting different others grantee partners, including Lex Corner, that's supporting the lesbian communities. So we are supporting them, especially on a project on domestic violence. We are also supporting another younger generation communities on doing sex education called Sticky Rice Love. And then we're also supporting two very, very young ethnic minorities. They organize a group called Empowering Women, hoping to empowering the ethnic minorities, women in Hong Kong, young women in Hong Kong. So there are a lot because we are supporting, like, I think at this moment we have more than 15 grantee partners, and
15, right?
15 of the 15 existing, yeah, 15, yeah. So at the same time, we are going to hold. So it was held already, but then as it was Typhoon Day, so coming, I think 2 weeks later, we'll be doing a resource mobilization workshop as said, like we also give capacity strengthening workshops. So the upcoming one is about resource mobilization, and we are hoping that like they can get more funding rather than or donation rather than just her fund. Um, as said, like we keep going on to do a project, not a project, a program called Transformative Feminist Leadership. So is around we are supporting around six uh, women's groups, including their leaders, to be more sustainable organization. And we are going to hold another inspiring workshop and hoping by the end of the year can launch a new batch to supporting more groups to
Uh-huh.
learn these leadership skills.
Right.
Um, yeah, so we are also planning to hold some community awareness workshops, hoping to
Okay.
reaching out a wider community to understand the issues, um, especially right now because I think in right now in this summer, we have five younger generation to be our intern students, and
Okay.
they are not coming from apply it. They are not applied it from their own university. They applied it through open recruitment. So we
Wow.
can see that there are more and more younger generation that would be um, would be very interested in this topic, and we hope to build some community awareness by doing some community awareness events. Yeah, they can understand a bit more about these marginalized communities. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's really just about compassion, don't you think?
yeah. It's also about compassion. And yeah, of course, we also hope that like finally they would be willing to be part of the gender champion,
Yeah.
um, and these would be something. I think this is also something very important for every one of us. Yeah.
So if someone were to reach out and become one of your resource partners or campaign partners or gender celebrities, right, or supporting
Yeah.
partners, how do they reach? How do they get in contact with you or reach out for you?
Yeah. So as you just share, we have a website www.harfund.org.hk, and then we also have Facebook page, also by Harfund slash Harfund. Um,
To put all that
so that,
in
YouTube,
okay. Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. When you type Harfund, you can find us. Also, you can also write us email info at harfund.org.hk. I'm trying to type in the chat.
Yes, thank
So,
you. Yes.
so yeah, so you can also reach out to us by through all these means. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any? Do you have children, right? If I recall correctly.
Yes, a 12 years old kid
And is it a boy or girl? I can't remember.
boy.
A boy. Does he
Yeah,
support what you do? Does he understand what you're doing?
yeah, he's super supporting. So when he was in my tummy, so he started to be a volunteer, and not
God.
and right now he is not just being a volunteer; he is a donor as well,
Oh
because
wow.
it's not really I ask him to donate. It's really he always like trying to save some money, pocket money, and then he
Ah,
said, "Oh, I would like to donate to support." Um, and he was being a model because some years ago we tried to sell some bags and t-shirt. We asked him to be the model, to tell people that kids can also be the gender champion. Yeah, and it's
yes.
also like although he is a boy, but as like what you we always talk about, like the whole community, we need to be the gender champion to make us gender equality together. Yeah. So that's
I,
why,
yes.
yeah, no, so that's why, you know, like, uh, no matter you are what kind of genders, you can be, yeah, part of our community. Yeah,
At is very interesting. At G100, we are a global organization that is trying to advance, doing everything we can to advance gender equality.
yeah,
And we have these partners. This is something that you don't know because I haven't had the opportunity to introduce the organization to you in depth. But
yeah.
we have these what we call denim partners. And that
Then,
is, yeah, denim, like what you wear, the jeans, denim.
oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Meaning that we know in order to shorten these 130 some years for us to breach, really breach, to achieve that gender equality, only women, if we only work on women and ask women to contribute, that is only half of the work. We need men, we need boys, right, of all ages and all backgrounds to pitch in and do their part. Because
yeah,
when, just like you said, when women and men together, when the kids, teenagers, school kids, right, teenagers, youth, college kids, they all support this and let everyone around their friend circle or family circle, community circle know how important it is to use that compassion to include everyone so that everyone can win at the same time. That is when the ball can go very far, just like you were saying, to go far. So I hope we can keep talking because I want to know so much more and maybe how we can collaborate again in the future. But time is up.
yeah.
So, do you have anything to add? Do you have a book or some mantras that you really live by and use every day to self care?
Well, I would say that, like, I am trying to do, um, I'm trying to meditate more,
Ah,
right now every day, because it's kind of like trying to ground myself and
yeah.
to keep more focusing on myself and how to link it with the nature and the
Mm.
big, big what? The big
The universe,
first, yes, and the
universal
community,
force.
yeah, and the community as well.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's something that is very important to do it together. Yeah,
Great meditation. Yeah, absolutely. Because you get all these downloads and you calm yourself. You're able to feel and think at the same time, both the heart and the brain. So congrats your journey of being this very kind of obedient child from a big household and being bullied by your own school teacher and all that, and then evolving into now the ED, right, the executive director of such a worthwhile and important organization in Hong Kong. And no matter the size, you kept going, your organization keeps going, and you keep leading, and that is what's important. So I hope that you and your team will continue to thrive with joy and a lot of satisfaction and contribution to Hong Kong. And I think we can say goodbye now, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. And do you have any last words to say to our audience?
yeah. So thank you again, Sherry, for inviting me, and hoping that everyone have a good night as well and good day. And of course, finally, we hope that like, trying to be Janet champion with,
Yes.
especially with her fun, of course.
Yes, so everybody goes on her front and subscribe to G.TV, okay? Thank you so much again.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you so much. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.